Hi, my name is John Kim, and I'm a therapist who went through his own rebirth. I share my feelings and revelations. I believe in casual over clinical and with you instead of at you. I come unrehearsed on purpose because self help doesn't have to be so complicated. All right, listen, I'm not going to tell you what you've heard before, which is in order to make sense of your life, you have to find your purpose, your passion, and then chasing that is going to align your life and you're going to be happy. There is truth to the traction you get from hanging a life on meaning, and by meaning, I mean a sense of purpose. Sure, absolutely. But we hear that so much, I think it's now backfiring because people who don't believe or are in a place where they haven't found what their purpose is, then they just get more depressed, right? They feel like there's something wrong with them. And by the way, I don't think purpose is a one-time thing. I don't think it's you have one purpose in your life. I think we have many purposes depending on where we're at and our chapters, right? I even though I quote unquote failed as a screenwriter, I feel that at that point in my life, that was my purpose, and through that, I learned how to write. I taught myself discipline. I, you know, it created a space for me to be creative. Like I did all these things that paid off later, and so sometimes purpose comes disguised and you think that it's not your purpose, and then as you look back in from the future you realize, oh, that needed to happen. It was one of the dominoes, right? And so anyway, here's what I believe when it comes to this question: how do I make sense of my life? My answer is this: you don't have to make sense of your life. Now, this doesn't mean that you just do nothing or you can do whatever the fuck you want. It means that you don't have to trace blueprints. You don't have to um, make sense. It doesn't have to be. Life doesn't have to be logical. And from what I've learned, and this is just my opinion, that magic happens when life isn't logical. And I think that we are so busy putting a lot of shoulds on ourselves, and a lot of them don't even belong to us. They belong to our parents and society, and so we're busy working so hard, getting obsessed about our lives looking a certain way, and when they don't, we get discouraged. We then internalize and feel that we are defective because you know um, our lives don't look the way that we want them to, or as they quote unquote should. And I think there's no reason to make sense of your life. Instead, I think you should focus on your state, um, not where you live. I'm talking about your emotional, physical, spiritual, your state. The plane that you operate on. I think when you focus on that, and I talk a lot about living a life that is inside out instead of outside in. And I share that because I used to live a life that was very outside in, meaning um, being affected by chasing things that are outside of self, right? And it doesn't mean that today I no longer want things. I mean, I love toys, and I love cars and motorcycles, and I want my house in the hills, and there's a lot of things I want, of course, right? But my life doesn't hang on those things, right? I am that my happiness doesn't hang on those things. Um, what makes me happy is now focusing on um, how I am and who I am. And so instead of this idea of life making sense, if you instead focus on how you are, meaning your state, meaning um, living more at a higher frequency, noticing when you dip and you're negative and pessimistic, and you're just living a life in your head and that's just filled with dread. That's everything I used to be. Um, Doing everything you can to pull yourself out of that and to live it on a higher frequency, pulling more from love and gratitude and compassion. And I know those are just wellness buzzwords, and they're very popular these days, and we're using those a lot. and very few actually, I think, and I'll put myself in that category. Very few actually practice these things daily. We just kind of wear the T-shirt. So, focusing on giving yourself things like presence, giving yourself creative spaces, giving yourself. When I say presence, I didn't mean gifts. I meant like to be present in the here and now. Giving yourself things that you deserve. Um, Giving yourself kindness, giving yourself forgiveness, being easier on yourself. All of these things contribute to you changing your state. At the same time, working hard, building something. Um, Stop playing the victim. Stop thinking that you got dealt shitty cards and that's that. So I think when you start to live a life where you build something and you focus on your state, um, and you focus on living a life that is more based on your truth, and that means living inside out instead of outside in, then I do think your life begins to make sense, if that makes sense. So instead of wanting to instead of asking yourself if life makes sense, which is very loaded, and then you're positioning yourself in a way by asking yourself that question to compare your life to a lot of shoulds and other blueprints, and a lot of depending on how you're raised and your environment, so many other factors, um, a certain, I don't know, standard or a certain a want that you maybe have been chasing that maybe isn't honest to you anymore. A lot of these shoulds come with timelines, like at what age you should be married or at what age you should have kids. Like all of these things that we have adapted and that we're trying to trace, right? Instead of living a life like that, which is only going to produce anxiety and make you feel less than, what if you focused on your state, who you are, if you like yourself, what can you do to like yourself more, your connection to yourself. What if you focused on being heard? What if you focused on self-expression? What if you focused on working on your craft slash what you believe are your gifts, the things that come to you more naturally than others? What if you focused on things that made you feel alive, and then you became passionate about that? I think as you focus on those things, and I mentioned in a different episode that hanging your life on three things. One is meaning, doing things that are meaningful to you. Engagement, actually engaging in life instead of just thinking all day, right? And then three, the ability to find joy in what you have today, not in what's to come. So all of that contributes to your state and living at a higher frequency. And I think that when you focus on those things, that life starts to unfold and starts to make sense to you as you look back and connect dots. So it's almost like, instead of looking at the map and seeing where you need to go, and I understand goals, I understand visualizing, and I'm a fan of all of that stuff and practice it myself, of course. You can't get anywhere without setting goals and accomplishing goals and all that. But if you are just narrowly focused on getting to a destination, to swimming to an island, without focusing on the here and now and the process, and all your evolutions, and also like accepting your story and everything that's happened, right? All of that. And when I say that, focus on your state, you're also allowing yourself to be sad if you are sad. You're also allowing yourself to experience and dip into feeling if they are negative. You're just not allowing yourself to stay there, and that's a huge difference. So how do you make sense of your life? You don't make sense of your life. You don't have to make sense of your life. It's okay that your life doesn't make sense. What matters is um, being present, focusing on what you have in the here and now, what you want to build, and pulling from what I always talk about as your solid self, your truth, your authentic self, who you really are, and not exchanging that for any kind of membership or for validation and approval. And I think that when you start to live that way, and you're very mindful, and you notice your patterns, and when you dip and when you're negative and all of that, and you do everything you can, and this is a practice to um, get yourself back up again, whether it's practicing gratitude or getting your ass in the gym or whatever it takes, whether you are working on a physical state or a mental emotional state or whatever tools that you've acquired along the way, getting back up on that higher frequency and living that way, that is the focus. And when you start to do that, I believe your life will make sense. Hey, if you have a passion to help others and want to become a life coach, or you just want to acquire tools to change your own life, learn more about our Catalyst Life Coaching Intensive. We are an evidence-based training program with an amazing, authentic, vibrant community, and we give lifetime support. Just go to my website, theangrytherapist.com, and click on Life Coach Training. Hey, before you go, if you like my ramblings and revelations and shares, I am now texting people directly to their phone. Just go to my website, theangrytherapist.com. If you want to subscribe, I'll be doing weekly text, 5 days a week, reminders, and also mindsets and exercises and challenges. And every week there will be a different theme, a different topic. So I hope to see you in your phone. And also, if you enjoy this conversation, I hope you help me spread the dialogue and help other people by sharing it. You never know what people need to hear. So if it's helped you, I hope you can help me help others.